Good afternoon guys, and welcome to today's vlog. Today brings me to a secluded wooded area just on the outskirts of Daventry called Badly Woods. Now it's got a fascinating story to it, it's got a few ghost stories, and it's got some ancient ruins going back to the Tudor period. So this should be a good explore, get out in the wide world and try and enjoy ourselves. Anyway guys, let's go and do this. This is a long ancient avenue, pathway, roadway if you like, which would have led over to the Solace estate. It's very sort of, not quite cobbly. You have got cobbles in here which would have depicted an old type of road that would have been here. But this would have been predominantly for your horse and cart, etc. Your stagecoach carriages. And they would have made their way up here through this gatehouse, which is pretty ornate, which I can see in front of me coming into view now, then through the wooded area and into Solace estate itself. It has stopped raining, which it has been doing for the last probably almost a week. Location of where we are, this is a place called Badby. It's just to the left hand side of Weedon, which itself is to the right hand side of Daventry. We're probably about, I'd guess maybe 4.5 miles away from Daventry itself. Over there in the distance, I don't know whether this will, I'm not going to zoom in, but right over the back there will be your M1. Prior to that, closer to us is the A5. It's taken me about an hour of struggling, because I'm struggling to drive nowadays with the nerve system and everything going on with my feet, trying to get them to work properly. But it's taken me an hour to get here. But so far, I'm really impressed. There's probably a dozen cars here, so say 2 people to a car means maybe you have a 25 people up and about in these woods. Apart from that, probably hundreds of sheep and the wildlife that are in the woods itself. That is quite impressive, to be honest with you. Very old, it goes pre-Tudor period, and it's like a status to the wealth of the people that would have lived here. Very ornate. It would have been in the past, not so much now. Sort of almost a ruin. I don't know whether it would have spread out either side, but that would have been your gateway. And the path itself, which just leads on, will end up into the Solace estate. I'd imagine there could have been something connecting here, because there is a gap there. It says you've got remnants of the walls. That would have been a gate. And here, this would have been what I was saying about cobble path. This probably would have travelled all the way back down from where we've come from, down the exit there where the car's just going past. And as I said, travelled all the way up there. It's quite a majestic piece. Not quite falling apart. I bet some of these inscriptions here that people have put on here go back to 1800s. Look at that, 1934. Wow. That could be an old family crest up there, which adorns the exit. An interesting piece. Almost like a portcullis from the start of a castle. As woods go, if you go off the beaten track a bit, it is quite dense in there. I shall venture in there in a short while, because I have a few fascinating stories to tell about the place. That is the way that we've come from, and to be honest, typical of me, I seem to have found a hill. It just seems to level off at the top here. I believe it gets a bit more narrower as well. Certainly glad I brought appropriate footwear this time instead of trainers. I've got boots on, because that is boggy. What you can see out there is a sea of green. That will actually become a sea of blue in approximately a month's time. There are areas where bluebells will grow, and it just becomes like a blue carpet. That over there is our first destination. That is truly majestic. An ancient ruins. Right, this is your ruins of your dower house. It's a 16th century, built circa 1542, and it's something to do with one of the knights of Henry VIII and a lady called Lady Ursula, a wife of Sir Edmund Knightley, who owned the Falsley estate at the time. They lived here, and they were probably the last people to live here. It's been abandoned since I think it's 1704. Fallen into disrepair a little bit. I believe either the National Trust or something's had something to do with shearing it up, if you can see from the beams inside. But yeah, it's a pretty old thing. It's weird that the actual roof is pointing inwards, but that's from indoors. And them chimney stacks, I don't know if this will focus in very well here. Very, very ornate. Don't usually see things like that about. A modern day bricklayer would be very proud of that. It's believed this is the first of its kind brick building to be about, not only in Northamptonshire where I am, but in the UK. Now, I've been to the other one which could make a claim to that, which is Summery's Castle, and it's got very similar distinctive features. And now this here makes it more of a fortified manor, because these little portholes here are where people could have, with probably at that time guns or crossbows, could have pointed out to anyone who's, I guess you could turn around and say invading, if that was the case of that era. And that would have had a spiral staircase which would have been built to defend from the top, so you couldn't swing. It goes back to old days, you could not swing a sword if you was going up, whereas if you was defending from the top you easily could. Oh yes, a beautiful piece of history right there. It was originally, I believe, a hunting lodge. Now I've been told it's haunted. I'll tell the story once I get back up into the woods. Some of the apparitions, not only during the evening and night hours, but also during the day. I've got someone saying hello over here. Hi guys, I'm not going to interrupt with you. I'm just going to do this bit and get out and back into the woods. Now that is beautiful. This is the Falsley estate, they own it. I think the Knightley family, that were the original occupiers, they all died off, and it's through marriage that it's been passed on. I've often wondered what this is all about. You see them on a lot of houses. I don't know whether they're to ward off things or etc. But there's always things like shears, etc. and then wheels, or whether they've just been put there in time just to hold it together, to keep it up. It's beautiful. Said the bricks used are a lot thinner than what we would have had in modern days. And of course, because of its yearage being Tudor, it's nothing there to see anymore, but they've got it as a listed 2 building, so it cannot be pulled down. You've got to be very careful with these sort of things, any of the work you may want to do on them. It's quite a haunting looking place. I know a lot of your people who do your haunts and your ghosts etc come here during the evening and make their way around the perimeter, do your ghost boxes etc, try and get communication with the other side. How does anyone even acquire a skill to do that with brickwork back in the day, in the 16th, also 17th century? Obviously, I would say this side of the manor is more modern than the other because of the style of brick. That's more of a stone, whereas that's your red brick, as we commonly see today on houses. It's just an old ruins left here to rest. I've simply always wondered what the purpose of these are. Are they shelters made by man for some of the local animals to seek shelter from storm? Or is it just an ornate thing, something to do with the used wood? It is believed that there is a ghostly apparition figure that appears from that house, sort of, I don't know, maybe Tudor period, military, all green or olive in colour. I don't believe he's on a horse himself, but he comes from without the walls into the open, and if you are said to have seen him around New Year's, then you are believed to meet your demise that very same year. So I don't know about that one so much. I dare say there are people that have said they've spotted him and are living now today, probably years later, but there you go. I've certainly been told tales of a headless horseman that sort of frequents the area, mostly round the Falsley Estate Church, which is where the original owners, the Knightley family, are laid to rest in a chapel. There is 2 statues on them on a mausoleum in the church grounds itself. It's got a graveyard there with other members of the family. But yeah, it's led to believe that he's a protector of the Falsley Estate, and he's supposed to roam there in the twilight hours. I don't know whether he's ever been seen during the day. The other ghost that I'm about to tell you the story of has been seen both daytime and night. It is said that there was a murder on the estate. It was a husband and wife going by the surname of Fitzgerald. Now, Fitzgerald himself was believed to be a very jealous man, and his beloved wife was, let's just say she was pretty, and she was admired by a lot of locals, other gentry, etc. And in a fit of rage, Mr. Fitzgerald shot her and hid her body originally in the grounds, but then he dug her up and hid her in this forest, in this wooded area. Now, he was never caught and punished because he emigrated to Canada, and it is believed to be the estate keeper who on his deathbed admitted that this crime had taken place, and that's where the story goes. Now it's believed that she roams these woods all in white, in a white gown, on a pure white horse. She's been seen during the day, during the evening twilight hours, and it's said that a most famous one was a lorry driver back in the 70s, and this figure appeared in the road on the horse. He stopped, pretty much asked her to get out of the way. She just carried on, and instead of jumping over the fence, went through the fence with the horse and disappeared off into the distance. I don't know, obviously a lorry driver is not going to be a drinker as such at the time, but things do play tricks on you. I've got my own belief around the ghostly apparitions that people turn around and say that they see or come in contact with. There are those that turn around and will use devices and techniques to try and draw out those who have passed on. But my belief is that it's like, you know, you get deja vu. You think, I've been here before, or you drive somewhere or go somewhere and you don't remember how you've got there. I think it's a time-lapse type thing where all of a sudden it switches and you see them in their timeline. That's why they're dressed in their period outfits, etc. Why they walk at a different level, so they could seem lower or higher and go through what we would say are walls, because in their time a wall might not have been there, it might have been a doorway. It's just a conclusion I've come up with, something I've always believed, and I'm happy that people are out there and try and bring these things to life. We have a little stream running through the wooded area itself. The last tale I've got to tell about these woods, this estate, this area is a humble tale, very sad tale to be honest with you, of a guy that would frequent this area alone, out of the public eye, where he would find peace. That man in question was Joseph Carey Merritt, otherwise known as John Merritt, more famously known as the Elephant Man. Now, Merritt himself, he had a grotesque figurement towards the end of his life. I think he died in 1890, but he started out probably past the age of 3 or 4. His head would start to form in a really weird shape. His body started to get these growths. His head got more growths, and that continued all the way through his life. Now, at the age of 12, his mother died. I believe she might have died in a fire. And from then on, his stepmother didn't want him. Nobody wanted him, and he was left as a poor, lonely soul to walk the streets of London and try and carve out a living, try and get some sort of money in so he could survive. And he would get a private train carriage, travel from London up to here, up to the woods that I'm in at Badby, which is, as I said, near Daventry, and he would stay here. I believe it's the Lantern House, which is on the A361. It looks hexagonal in its shape. Other people have turned around and said there's a shack, but the way the shack is built looks as if it's more of a period after the Second World War. Now, he was gone long before that time. Now, where I'm standing in this area, all around you, you see over there where it's all green, that will be bluebells, as I said, in approximately a month's time. He would come here and find solace, be out of the public eye, and he could do the sort of things that I'm doing now, just walk around, be free of the outside world, and his confinements of his, what they would say then was a grotesqueness. Now he'd be more accepted in more modern day society, but then people feared him, and this was just a place where he could get away from it all. Now his life, mostly in solitude, or basically as a freak in a circus show, etc. When he died, he could not even get peace then, because they skinned him. The people who ridiculed him got hold of his body. I don't know whether he left it to medical science, etc. It's something that my sister wanted to do when she'd passed, but they peeled the flesh from his bones, boiled him, put the rest of his remains, all his heart, lungs, etc., the rest of his skin, eyes, etc., threw them into a casket and buried that in the City of London cemetery. And himself, I believe it's the Royal London Hospital, there is himself now in his boned form, kept in a glass case, which I think is truly sad, even sickening. And I believe at some point Michael Jackson even tried to purchase him, which is bizarre. That is Merrick's skull. The rest of him and his skeleton, as I said, on display in a college hospital in London. I do love the denseness, spit my teeth out again, do love the denseness of woods, especially sort of this time more than summer, because it has that sinister, eerie look about it, whereas summer all this will be green and foliage and you will not be able to see anything. Your signs there. If you get early bluebells, which will start to flourish soon. There is an absolutely lovely walking trail that goes all the way through these woods, but we like to keep it a little bit off the beaten track. I know people have set up cameras around here, and there is badger sets, deer, foxes, etc., bunnies running around. Not likely to see them during the daylight. It's as the sun goes down they feel more at ease, more camouflaged away from us, because we're their only threat. Just realised that some of the noises that I'm hearing, which sounds like heavy machinery, sometimes even chainsawish from where I am, it isn't actually here, but it's a Santa pod, which is probably maybe 10-15 mile away. Now this time last year, last Easter, I was at the Festival of Speed, which is a Santa pod event with the dragsters. I vlogged that event, so if you want to have a look at that in my videos. Didn't go this weekend because Rachel's working today and she's working Easter Monday when I'm doing the motocross. But we are looking, there's one called Dragstalgia, where you get the period dragsters and the ladies come all dressed up with like the 50s, the 60s, etc. So looking at that, it's cheaper than this event. This event was, I think, as much as £44 on the day, so a bit pricey, whereas the other one I think is £25 each. I think that comes May, possibly June time, so certainly look into that. Some of these climbs really steep, but the views are breathtaking. I'm not brave enough to ever go at these, but these ropes are swings that the kids will obviously grab hold of and swing out, but it's not for me, guys. Who even climbed up there in the first place? So coming up, I said I'm not doing anything tomorrow. This will be the vlog that I would have done for Saturday, but it, as is always with me, it gets uploaded this afternoon, this evening when I get home, and it will be available to watch within hours. That's the way I operate. Sunday nothing. Monday, bank holiday Monday, I am going back to my old original love of motocross. I will vlog that. It's quite fast, octane junky, colourful, spectacular, some great guys there. It's the first round of the Luton Motocross Club Championship. I will vlog that, some of the races, talk about some of the history, something I remember of the sport itself, put that together as a vlog. So it's not quite to everyone's taste. Some people think, well, hang on a minute, you've just done this is totally in a different direction. It's just the way I operate. I like to throw everything out there, not be put into one individual box. It's the things that I like and enjoy, and I try and get it put across so other people can enjoy them. Like this, people nowadays, they might have spent a day walking around the city centres, shopping centre, malls, etc. Head down. Here, you look around you, you're by yourself. It's peaceful. It really is beautiful as well. So you get a chance, guys, go and do this. And anyway, with that, that's it for this vlog. I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ruins, putting the stories together. As you know, with myself, I like to dig deep and find the hidden stories. I was looking into the ghost stories, and then I found the story of Merrick, who was obviously the Elephant Man, and knowing that he stood where I am standing now, walking around, is quite humbling. It's a true story, there's nothing made up, it's factual, it's all written down and documented. And with that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Great, I really appreciate all the views, the likes, the comments, etc. And with that, I'll see you in the movies. Bye for now. Back where we started.